Okay.
Well, I'm Alan Lewey, and my wife Barbara Jean Ellington
Lewey.
is now Lewey. My middle name's Bradley. This story we're going to tell at this moment is kind of out of sequence of our history because there's lots of stories that the family likes, but it's an important one because it was one of the major keystones of our life, and we weren't members of the church yet, but this is one of those miracles that occurred before we realized how much our Heavenly Father was watching after us. And so for us, this is, looking back at it, is we should not have still been married for 50 plus years at this point in time. Anyway, you want to start with this, or this? See, this is our marriage, so we can start with June 3rd.
Tell us how you met.
We met.
That's almost another story.
Yeah, at a football game. He played football.
Where was this?
Hillsborough, Illinois.
Hillsborough, Illinois.
And where is that?
Well, it's right in the middle of the state. It's just south of Springfield, about 40 or 50 miles.
And how many people live in Hillsborough?
Less than 10,000, less than 5,000 probably. I grew up in a town of about 350. She grew up in Hillsborough, which is, I'm going to guess,
6,000.
that's a little big. High school, we can tell you, all 4 years of high school was less than 600 students. So
The whole high school.
the whole high school, 9, 10, 11, 12. So anyway, we know we met in October, early October of 1965.
Not early October.
Huh?
The third week of October.
Second or third week. We're really not sure. We know that we met after a home game, a home varsity game in football, which means it was a Friday night. We know that much. But when we went to look to try and track it down, is the high school yearbooks always had the season schedule, except for the year that we met. They didn't put the schedule and what the scores was that year, so we can't. I know we had a good season because I was a junior and playing varsity, so I was starting varsity. I played varsity even as a sophomore, not starting, but I played on the varsity team even as a sophomore. So a friend. Growing up in small communities, I drove. I mean, I was driving before I had a driver's license, but so I had a car. And a friend of mine, James McLean, had met three girls, and I don't know how they met, but they were at the game, and he approached me after the game as I was coming out and says, "Hey, can we take these girls out on a date or just out for the night?" Well, there was three of them and two of us. Her best friend, Marilyn Duncan at the time, and Harla Collins, who lived down where I and Jim McLean lived, down in Donaldson, which is about 10 miles south of Hillsborough. And so we had to figure out which girl we was going to take home, and the rest of it, and the other two of us was going to go. So we drove all the way to Donaldson and dropped Harla off, and drove all the way back to Hillsborough, and I think it was Kinney's, wasn't it? The restaurant there, the trucks. The gas station restaurant.
I don't know. I can't remember.
And anyway, that was our first meeting. I mean, we were in school together through junior high and high school, but we didn't know each other.
You knew my brother.
Oh, I knew her brother, yeah, but I didn't know her.
You're the same year in school. You were,
yeah.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So her brother and her and I were all in the same year of school. Anyway, I asked her if we could go out, just her and I, and she couldn't go out because
I had UNICEF to collect for. It was Halloween.
And so we couldn't go out then. So I don't know, I can't remember all the details, but we did have a date later on. And we pretty much dated from then on. Except for that summer in between, she dated another guy on the football team. He was a year younger than me, and
would have been a year younger than me too.
And anyway, I found out about it, and I was especially aggressive in practice.
He was on the team too?
Yeah, he was on the team too.
And he was a smaller guy.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how we met, was there, and we continued dating pretty much all the way through graduation. And so there's other little things that happened in there, but that's the meeting part of it. Is just wasn't looking for anybody. I just happened to have a car I could drive, and this other Jim had met the girls, and Jim dated Marilyn for once or twice, and then Marilyn dated another friend of ours. We double dated for a few months, and they broke up, and we just pretty much stayed together for the most part.
But you knew in high school that you guys wanted to get married.
We got engaged in study hall in
60.
it would be the
65.
the senior year, the starting of the senior year,
65.
which would be 1965.
And how did you propose to her?
Or no, it would have been 66 because
No, it was in the school year. We graduated in 66, so it's fall of 65, spring of 66. So it would have been 1966.
yeah, but you gave me the ring before Valentine's Day
Yeah, that would have been
because your mom didn't
okay.
like
Yeah,
it.
so yeah, it would have been.
Gave the
It would
ring
have
to
been.
me.
It would have been somewhere between January 1st and Valentine's Day. I think my mom wanted me to wait till Valentine's Day, and I didn't. But we'd been shopping for the ring earlier.
Yeah.
This was your senior year of high school.
This is our senior year of high school. Now, we were one of three couples that were, well, the other two couples actually got married
Yeah.
While they were in high school.
while they were in high school.
Right.
That was not that uncommon then.
Yeah.
So,
So you were engaged at the beginning of the school year, but you actually got your
No,
ring later?
I don't actually remember what day I have made an official proposal. It had to be sometime during that senior year, the fall of 65, the spring of 66. So, but I know it was the study hall because I'd sit in front of her and turn around, and we'd talk most of the time in study hall.
You studied her.
Something along the lines of, we ought to make this official. Would you marry me? Something like that. The exact words I can't tell, but you remember
can't
when, and you remember where we were at.
Yeah.
Now you're still wearing the ring he gave you back then?
Yes.
Same one.
Wow. And how did you come up with the money to buy a ring when you were in high school?
That's a different story.
Well,
The short version of it is I cleaned, I paid for that ring with very expensive
Horse manure.
horse manure. I cleaned thoroughbred stalls out that summer to pay for the ring. But I was a good farmhand. That's part of the reason I played football. Is I was actually fairly strong as a youth because I was the primary. If a farmer was baling hay and he hired somebody to help, I was one of the crew every time in my locality, and I would stack, which is another whole story of just baling hay. But so.
and when did you set the date? When did you know what date you were going to?
Well, we didn't really.
Tell us how you get from the ring to.
Actually, I wasn't on good terms with.
Yeah. My family didn't like him. He was from the other side of the tracks.
Literally, the other side of the
Literally.
tracks.
He had a railroad track that was on not just a couple of blocks from his house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the north side of the tracks and he was on the south side of the tracks.
But we were 10 miles apart.
Yeah.
We lived 10 miles apart.
So
And matter of fact, there was a time
She
when,
didn't know her mom then.
Yeah, I
she
didn't
never
know.
met her mother at that time.
till I was 32.
So that's another story.
That's a whole nother story.
So,
But there was a time when my grandmother didn't want me to go with Alan, and she had a hold of one arm and he had a hold of the other arm, and they were both pulling.
tug of war. And I don't
So-
remember on that date if you actually went with me or not. I don't think.
No, because when
didn't
I
want-
left the house to meet him, I went out the back door.
That part wasn't. That pulling was a different event.
Okay.
But when we graduated from high school on June 3rd, that would have been a Friday night. And in Illinois, the female can get married with parental consent at age 16 and on their own at 18. But the male can get married with parental consent at 18 and and on his own at 21. Well,
Kind of backwards. Isn't
June
it?
3rd, June 3rd, we graduated from high school. On June 12th, she turned 18, and I went up to her house. She lived with her grandmother, and I picked her up, and we basically left from there to Ohio
No, we went to your mom's house.
first.
Did your
we-
grandma know that you were leaving?
No. So
Did you have bags packed and everything? I mean,
I had
No.
nothing. I had
She
a
did-
teddy bear, no shoes, and no clothing.
just what she had on her back without shoes. So she left with just the teddy bear, and which I won for her at a carnival.
how come
that-
you didn't pack bags or anything? You didn't want anybody to know?
It was
No.
just how it happened.
I was 18, you know? You don't think about things like that.
I think we had $5 total cash.
In a 55 Chevy.
And when we left, I guess you know more of the details. I know from there we didn't spend the night at Mom's.
No, I
We
don't
went
think
down there and we left that day to go to Ohio. I have a brother and sister that were living in two different towns in Ohio, and he
Because you couldn't get married in Illinois. Because of the
couldn't
law.
because I was illegal. I mean, my mom would sign,
Yeah.
but
You
I
still
wasn't
weren't
legally.
18.
I wasn't
wasn't
old
eight.
enough.
You were
Well,
still
hey,
17.
I'm
That's
6 weeks older than he is.
right.
Yeah, and right now she is older than me. She's the older woman.
Yeah,
Yes.
I robbed
Until,
Greg.
Until-
Robin the
until-
Cradle. Yeah.
Anyway, that was June 12th, and that would have been a Sunday. And then, so we left to go out there, and because my brother was there in town, and he called out and because we went out there to get married, because out there I was legally of age.
Mm-hmm.
But we got out there, and she was not of age.
And I didn't have anybody that would sign for me.
So we couldn't get married there. So we stayed at a friend of my brother's for a couple of days until he came back. And then she went up to my sister in Lancaster, and I stayed in Franklin, Ohio with my brother, and I got a job there. And I go see her on weekends. And then 6 weeks later, when I turned 18, well, she and Carol came back that week before to get things ready because we were going to go back. And there were some complications, and you can tell part of that.
No, I will not tell part of that.
Do you want me to do the whole thing?
No, I don't want you to do any of it.
Well, we got to do part of it.
I was 18 and I didn't know what it was I
Well-
was doing.
Well, I didn't know either. We need, that's why this is a miracle that this has gone the way it has. Is that this was going to happen? Is the first thing is that she came back and they got a dress that Carol had to redo, right? And what was
Who's
it?
Carol?
That was my sister.
Your sister.
Now the dress was from Ben Franklin 5 and Dime,
I don't know, but it only cost $5.
$5.
and it had to be redone to fit her.
Yeah.
So
It was too big, right? The dress was
Yeah,
too
it
big.
was
It
too
had-
big.
And the birthday cake, the wedding cake,
Was $5.
it was,
It was a birthday cake that they made into a wedding cake
they re-iced it and turned it into a wedding
because
cake.
nobody picked it up.
Nice.
We was going to have the wedding in the Presbyterian Church in Donaldson, a small town. Jim Howie's was the preacher there. He had a youth rally scheduled in the afternoon, and so he canceled it so he could do the presentation. And then the Women's Auxiliary, which would be like our Relief Society, they canceled their meeting so that we could have the wedding at the church. The real problem was that I still wasn't 18 on Saturday, and we're going to get married on Sunday because that's the day I turned 18. We don't have a marriage license yet, and the County Hill Courthouse is going to be closed. So, being in a small farming rural community, is the county clerk took the marriage license home with her, and we went to her house on Sunday morning and got the marriage license issued from her house. So if anybody in the centuries down the road gets to looking in the history and sees that we were married, got our marriage license issued on a Sunday, it is correct. because we probably are the only one that had a marriage license issued on July 24th. And so her mom, her grandmother was there, her aunt was there, her family was there to be at the wedding. And I mean, it was
So
nothing
you
they
were
could-
married on your birthday.
on my birthday, July 24th, which
So
we have no idea the significance of that date. So
Yeah.
Then you didn't.
Yeah, then we didn't.
is so, and so that's just one of the little things that there are so many. I'd say there's hundreds of little things that have happened to us that tells us that the Lord has been helping us. I'm not sure helping is the right word. I think He's been kicking
He
me in
had
the
a hand in
shins and giving me a shove because I've been kind of a wild person anyway.